The desert was alive with heat and silence before the storm. Waves of sand rolled endlessly under the Egyptian sun, a barren ocean where armies gathered for a battle that would decide the fate of North Africa. It was October 1942, and at El Alamein, two great war machines, Rommel's Africa Corps and Montgomery's Eighth Army, prepared to collide. For Sergeant Thomas "Tom" Bradley, commander of a British Crusader tank, the desert felt like both ally and enemy. The sand swallowed tracks, the sun baked steel until it could burn skin, and yet here, in this emptiness, tanks could move like ships in battle. His tank, Iron Duke, rumbled forward in formation, part of the steel tide preparing to sweep across the battlefield. "Hold tight, lads," Tom muttered to his crew. "This is the big one. No turning back." Inside the cramped hull, sweat mixed with oil. The gunner, Corporal Davies, checked the 6-pounder again, his hand steady though his face was pale. Loader Private Harris stacked shells within reach, muttering a quiet prayer. Driver Allen kept his hands glued to the controls, his eyes scanning for the dreaded sight of German Panzers. Across the sands, German Panzer IVs and deadly 88mm guns lay hidden. General Rommel, the Desert Fox, was a master of ambush, and the men of the Africa Corps were veterans of countless desert battles. The British knew that to break through here meant opening the road to victory. Failure meant ruin. The first artillery thunder shook the desert floor. A wall of sound rolled across the horizon as thousands of guns opened fire. It was the start of Operation Lightfoot, Montgomery's great offensive. The ground shook, sand geysers erupted, and the desert sky turned black with smoke. Tom gritted his teeth as his Crusader advanced. Ahead, tracer fire lit up the horizon. German shells screamed in, striking the sand with monstrous blasts. One British tank to his left erupted in flames, its turret thrown skyward in a violent explosion. "Steady!" Tom barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. Then came the moment he feared. Panzers, black shapes on the horizon, moving with deadly precision. Their guns flashed, sending armor-piercing shells toward the British line. Target, Panzer. Bearing 10 o'clock. Davies shouted. "Fire!" Tom ordered. The Crusader's gun roared, recoil smashing through the turret. The shell struck a Panzer, the impact shattering its side armor. Flames burst out, black smoke climbing into the sky. A cheer erupted inside Iron Duke, but it was short-lived. Another Panzer's shot slammed into their tank, rocking them violently. "Hit on the right track!" Allen yelled. "Still mobile!" Tom snapped. She's limping." The Crusader dragged itself forward, slower now, but still in the fight. Across the battlefield, it was chaos. Steel monsters dueling at point-blank range, sand kicked up by treads and shells, men fighting for survival. The German 88s, hidden and lethal, cut down British tanks in swathes. Yet, despite the losses, the Eighth Army pushed forward. 4 hours, the desert became an inferno. Tanks brewed up in black columns, crews scrambling out, some saved, others cut down in the firestorm. Tom's world narrowed to orders, targets, and survival. Davies, new target, Panzer straight ahead. "On it, loaded!" Harris shouted. The gun roared again. Another enemy tank was silenced, its hatch bursting open as flames consumed it. Suddenly, the radio crackled with urgent news. "All units, Africa Corps counterattack incoming. Multiple Panzers advancing north sector. Hold at all costs." Tom's heart sank. The Germans were not broken yet, they were striking back with fury. He turned his turret toward the northern dunes. There they came, dozens of Panzers cresting the sands, a sight both majestic and terrifying. The ground shook beneath their advance, engines growling like predators on the hunt. "Steel Tempest," Tom muttered. "This is it." The British line wavered as German tanks crashed into them. Explosions turned the battlefield into hellfire. The two armored tides smashed together, the desert echoing with the clash of steel and thunder. Tom's Crusader fired again and again, its gun smoking hot, shells running low. Every hit was a prayer, every near miss a curse. The Germans pressed harder, their formations tight and relentless. Then disaster struck. A shell from an 88mm tore through Iron Duke's side armor. The tank lurched violently, alarms shrieking. "Fire in the engine!" Allen cried. "Out! Everyone out! Tom roared. The crew scrambled, bursting from the hatches as flames engulfed their machine. Sand scorched beneath their boots as they ran for cover. Behind them, Iron Duke, their steel home, exploded in a thunderous fireball. Tom fell to the sand, coughing, ears ringing. Around him, the battle raged, burning tanks, screaming shells, men fighting with everything they had. His crew regrouped beside him, shaken but alive. "Orders, Sarge?" Davies asked, still clutching his sidearm though it was useless against tanks. Tom looked across the battlefield. The British line was holding, but barely. The Germans pushed like wolves, but reinforcements were arriving. Shermans, newly supplied from America, their 75mm guns barking with deadly force. One by one, the tide began to turn. The British Shermans punched holes in the Panzer formations, flames rising where once the Afrika Korps had seemed invincible. The steel tempest that had threatened to overwhelm them now began to break. Tom and his men, without their tank, joined infantry in the dunes, grabbing rifles and fighting on foot. Around them, courage spread like fire. The Eighth Army refused to yield. At last, after hours of relentless combat, the German advance faltered. Panzers pulled back, smoke trailing, their attack broken. The desert was littered with wrecks, burning hulks of Crusaders, Shermans, Panzers, all twisted in death. The ground was scarred, but the line had held. The radio crackled once more, "All units, Afrika Korps retreating. Alamein is ours. Repeat, the enemy is falling back." Cheers erupted across the battlefield. Exhausted men raised fists, some collapsing where they stood. The desert wind carried the scent of victory and smoke alike. Tom sat in the sand, staring at the blackened wreck of Iron Duke. His chest ached, his body trembling with exhaustion. Around him, his crew, alive, battered, but alive, sat in silence. "We held," Davies whispered. "Aye," Tom said softly. "We held." The Battle of El Alamein would be remembered as the turning point in North Africa, the moment the Desert Fox was finally forced to retreat. For Tom and his crew, it was survival bought with blood, fire, and steel. The desert had witnessed a tempest of tanks, a clash of giants. And though many did not live to see the sun set, their sacrifice had forged victory. As the wind swept over the burning sands, Tom looked toward the horizon, where the enemy retreated into the distance. For the first time in months, hope stirred. The desert war was not yet over, but tonight, beneath the stars of El Alamein, they had won. The story crescendos in the desperate clash when Tom's tank is destroyed, forcing him and his crew into survival mode. The tide turns as the British Shermans arrive, breaking the Afrika Korps assault. The victory at El Alamein becomes both a historical triumph and a personal one for Tom and his men, ending with relief, reflection, and a sense of hard-won hope.